Check. I'm good. So I'm Max Ceron. CWB Association Welding Podcast. Today we have a really cool guest. Welding Podcast.
The show is about to begin.
Hey, and welcome to another edition of the CWB Association podcast. I'm Max Ceron with you as always. Hope you guys are ready for a fun show. I got Jason Becker here with us. He is the infamous and notorious and all-around, well, you're all over the place, Jason. How you doing, man?
Doing good, man. How you doing?
I'm doing awesome. You know, winter started here, which is I'm not a big winter fan. I don't really like the cold too much, but business is always better in the cold for welding up here. There's lots of work, so that's the good part. How about you? How's it down there? You're in Florida, right?
Yeah, it's great. It's 77 degrees. Unlike you, I do like winter because we never get it. So our winter is pretty much like a nice spring day for you guys up there.
Yeah, you know, that's the nice part, when it's like cold, but you can still do stuff, right?
Yeah.
See, my problem is that I've never gotten into the winter toys here, like the snowmobiles and stuff like that. Like, that stuff looks super fun, but then I get chickened out. Like, it's just minus 35 out there, man. I don't know.
Right. It doesn't sound like a good time.
No, man. All right. So, Jason, you know, I've been checking you out. What's going on? You got a lot of projects on the go, man. Who are you? Where did you come from? Tell me about yourself.
I'm kind of all over the place. So I started getting into welding when I was 15 and went to a vocational school, trained there for a couple of years, got out, joined the Marine Corps. I was fortunate enough to be a welder in the Marines. Did a 4-year stint over there, a couple tours overseas to the sandbox. Got back and kind of stumbled into structural steel ironwork by accident. I answered a newspaper article for back then. You know, we had newspapers instead of social media and stuff to find jobs. So answered a local ad for somebody that can weld aluminum handrail, and I showed up, and the next thing you know, they got me doing aluminum handrail and stair stringers, and then, you know, moving on to structural buildings and B-decking and bar joists and all that good stuff.
So you're an iron worker. You're an iron worker, and they say, hey, you're going to weld aluminum. You don't do a lot of aluminum welding in the ironworking world.
No, not really. I mean, just like handrails, some guardrails, ornamental stuff, architectural. So it's kind of an array of different things. We use a bunch of different processes depending on what the client's needs are.
Yeah, and like you said, you started your welding career really through the Marine Corps. That's something that I actually recommend to a lot of students coming out here in Canada too. The military is always looking for tradespeople desperately, and you know, we tell some of these young guys and girls coming up saying, you know, if you ever get hard done looking for a job, you know, the military is a really good option because they're looking for work. You get some good training, get a good education, and it's all paid for. So it's a really good option.
And they're paying you while you're in, and then once you get out, you've got a skill set to kind of expand upon.
Yeah, for sure, man.
It always looks good on a resume.
Yeah, for sure. My dad was in the military in South America, and I grew up in that kind of household. So there's ups and downs, but definitely it's awesome education and valuable lessons to be learned.
Yeah, it was a good time. I don't regret any bit of it. I had a lot of fun.
Yeah. So then you're ironworking. I've done some stints with the ironworkers. They're a fun crew. They're kind of like the daredevils of the industry because they're up and everywhere, and there's kind of ironworkers in every job. In the ironworking field, what was the parts that you liked? Did you like being up high? Did you like the structural erection? Or did you like the welding best, or kind of everything?
A little bit of everything. I mean, I really enjoyed, you know, hooking up to the crane, setting different sections. Bolt up's always fun. Welding's probably the best part, but like I said, down here in Florida, you know, it's 150 degrees up on a roof, and you're dropping arcs and sparks all over the place. It gets it'll wear you out pretty quick. But yeah, I mean, anytime I could find a spot to weld in the shade, man, I really enjoyed that. But
has there always been lots of work in your area for ironworking?
Yeah, I've never been without a job since I got out of the military. I've always I've transitioned from one place to the next, but I've never been without work. Even during COVID down here, you know, when everybody else was kind of shutting down, I teach for a place called Valencia College down here in Florida. It's a state university, and we run some accelerated skills programs. So we do welding, CNC, mechatronics. We kind of have an array of different skilled trades that we do. And even during COVID, I had employers calling trying to recruit my students to come on temporary, even though they were working a bunch of hours and stuff. They just needed some temporary help because they switched some of their manufacturing, the components that they were building to make things for all the new restrictions and stuff that they were implementing with COVID. So, there's hand sanitizing stations that needed to go everywhere. So people were buying those, and then mask stations and all this other stuff. So it's kept everyone pretty busy as far as like being in the skilled trades sector.
Yeah, it's really interesting that you bring that up. Here in Saskatchewan, that's the province we live in here in Canada. We're considered a manufacturing province. We have a lot of manufacturing facilities, and with COVID, we actually found lots of these companies. Same thing, forming plastics, making guards, sneeze guards, covers, trays, dividers. People were, there was a lot of work out there in that first initial boom where everyone's like, "Oh man, we gotta do something about this." And it's super interesting. I just saw a meme about it the other day where they're like, the quarantine only affects the people that can stay home. The people that can't are working twice as hard. You know what I mean?
Right.
Because everything still moves. Things still run. Companies still got to make money. Things got to keep producing, right? So.
Yeah, the world's going to keep turning.
Yeah. When you you teach at the college, how long have you been teaching there for?
I've been teaching at Valencia since 2016, so right at 4 years.
Were you teaching before that?
Yeah, I taught at Seminole State College 2 years before that. Same thing, welding.
Mm-hmm.
I actually got into that. I was once I left the military and joined the Ironworkers, I was using my GI Bill to pursue a bachelor's degree in construction management because I wanted to keep it, stay within the construction trades. And about halfway through my degree, I had a professor ask me. He was the department chair, and he said, "Hey, we're putting together a welding program. We'd love for you to come and teach." And I was like, "No, man, I'm with the union over here. I got a pension, I got annuity, 100% of my health care is paid for. I'm making some good money." And I kept turning him down. He stayed on me for about 6 months, and he says, "Just try it for one term. If you don't like it, you can always go back." I'll give it a shot. Why not? And I started that first year. It was a class we started in January 2015, and I fell in love with it almost immediately. I mean, It was the first couple of days were a little awkward, but after that, man, it was great. Being able to teach these young men and women a trade that I'm so passionate about, and kind of see them get that eureka moment when they finally understand what that watching that puddle actually means, and learning how to manipulate it and adjust the settings on their machine and see exactly what it can do, and go and troubleshoot the machine when something's going on with it. I don't know, it gives you a good sense of pride and stuff. So it's really, it's a different type of reward versus a financial aspect.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah, I love it, man.
Yeah, like I have never even thought about teaching, and never even popped into my mind. I was working for a big company, did some work at the college, same thing. Boss comes up, is like, "Hey, you want to be a substitute teacher here and there?" And I was like, "Well, not really. Like, I got a pretty good gig already." Yeah. But then, yeah, for sure, man. And what I've really learned now that I've been teaching almost 7 years now is watching your students progress in their careers. Like, it fills you with pride to see someone you taught 3-4 years ago running their own business or getting the contracts, and they're out there and they're killing it, and they're buying the house and the car, and you're like, yes, that's what you're supposed to do. Good job.
Exactly.
You don't want to see anyone fall off the wagon, right?
Right. Now, I've got a few of them that some of the kids that I taught the second year that I was teaching, they're running their own. I've got one kid, he's running his own mobile welding business. I got another guy that's doing he's building his own custom aluminum awnings for different companies. So he's a one-man band.
Yeah.
But I see some of the pictures that he's posting up on Facebook, and it's like, wow, what have you been doing for the past couple of years to acquire all these skills so fast and start your own business? And they're buying houses and they're getting married, and it's awesome to see them kind of go through life and grow up.
Yeah.
And I spent a year with them. Usually, spend about a year of time with them, and it's kind of like raising another kid in some aspects, and watch them grow up and become successful. And I got students that stop by the college all the time. I got another one that he does high performance racing parts. He was working for another company and didn't like the way he was being treated, so he says, "You know what? I'm going to go open my own shop." And he's killing it now because he was doing all the work in the first place, and now he's just getting clients left and right and doing all these high performance parts, doing something that he's passionate about and he loves. And it's just great to see him grow.
Yeah, and he's got, they pick up skills everywhere. It's
Yeah.
good to know that that network of welders and fabricators is out there. Like you put in your time with someone, then they went out and obviously they ran into somebody else that was willing to put in their time with, with them, and they progress over time. So in terms of your own career, you're coming out of school at 15 thinking like getting into welding, you dig it. Were you always good at it, or like, or did you struggle? Be
Oh no, I
honest.
struggled, man. I struggled. I sucked, man. I got in there and I kept, especially because we started off with oxy fuel welding. I was like, oh, this is
Mm-hmm.
cool. I'm playing with fire. I'm melting stuff. It's, the joints aren't breaking. They don't look great. I got into stick welding, and I was only going for 2 hours a day. And I want to say it took me at least that first school year to learn how to weld proficiently with stick.
Yeah.
And I mean, I was testing and busting out and testing and busting out, and I was like, man, I'm not good at basketball, so or anything else. I'm too short to play basketball. I'm too slow to play,
You got to make this
football.
work.
I got to make this work, man. I don't have much going for me. And finally, one day, it clicked. And I think it was because at the time, at 15, I didn't realize the opportunity that I had in front of me. I was more or less,
It's just a
I'm
cool
going to take
thing.
welding because it's cool and it's an easy class. I can pick up, I can pick up an A,
Mm-hmm.
and then it took me a while, and finally I buckled down. I said, you know what? I'm here to learn something. I can do something with this career. Let me get my head out of my rear and put some effort into it. And I finally got it and never looked back.
That's good. I had the misfortune of working for my dad. He's a welder too. So he actually didn't let me weld forever. I was just on the dumb end of a grinder for like a year, just grinding other people's things. And finally, one of the other guys on the floor was like, "Hey, do you want to weld?" And I was like, "Yeah, give me, like, I want to do something like you guys. I think I can do what you do." And I was pretty terrible. And you meet other young people that are somehow gifted at it. Like have you ever participated with the skills challenges, like the U.S. skills team and stuff like that?
Yeah, I actually judged the regional competition last year for Marshman Tech.
Yeah. So when you're in that and you're in the skills program, like I got to go to Russia last year with our competitor, and these kids, like this kid was like 17 out of high school, joined the welding program, and within 3 months he was probably better than every teacher there. It's like, how does that happen? Just that natural skill,
I've seen it a couple times. Kids come into my program and you show them something, and then they do it, and it's like, okay, wait a minute, you said you've never done this before. well, I haven't. And I was like, well, how did you do what you just did? And they're like, well, you just showed me how to do it. Okay, my job here is done.
I'll go work with that guy over there now.
Yeah, I'm gonna go work with one of the kids that aren't catching on as fast because you're making me look too good in here. I need to go humble myself.
Yeah. So in your teaching profession now, what do you mainly teach? Like, what's your main gig on the day to day?
Dated. I mean, our program changes every few weeks, so we have two different levels. The first one covers, let's see, start from the beginning. Shielded metal arc welding, oxy fuel cutting, plasma cutting, carbon arc cutting. Then we get into gas metal arc welding, blueprint reading, weld symbol interpretation, obviously shop safety. We start getting into fabrication. I found students learn a lot better, and they get more prepared for the workforce, the more projects we can take on. So we always have different community projects we do. And then once, if they decide to go into the level 2 program, we get into flux core arc welding, both self-shielded and gas shielded, aluminum MIG welding with a push pull and a spool gun to kind of show them the differences between the two, gas tungsten arc welding for steel, stainless, aluminum, and a little bit of Inconel, depending on which company they're going to go to work for. We have a couple employers we work with, and they do some exotic materials. So they donate some Inconel, so the students that are planning to go work with those companies, we let them test on that. And then CNC plasma cutting, and then reinforce, more fabrication and all that. So it's constantly changing. I usually have them, just about a year. I mean, it's 40 weeks, but with all the holidays and breaks and all that, it's pretty much a full year. And that's pretty much the day to day. We go into the shop every morning, fire up all the machines. They get to welding. We only have class Monday through Thursday, but then I have a lot of students that come in on Friday that want to put in extra time or work on projects from the house. everybody's got a muffler or wants to build a barbecue grill. As soon as, especially they find out you're a welder, man, they need a barbecue grill. So we got all kinds of stuff going on, and I let them usually do some of those projects Thursdays and Fridays, and it seems to be it holds their attention a little bit better. And yeah, I mean that's pretty much what we do. And then once they're in the level 2 program, right at the end, I'll let them go back and do a different type of some of the other processes that maybe they weren't as proficient at, or they want to go back and do a retest or something, or do over, or get more practice in it, or they've identified what area of work they want to go into, so they'll fall back into that process. We'll just kind of work them through it and make sure they're proficient before they leave.
All right. You know, I got, as a teacher to teacher, we're going to take a break now, but I got some questions about your guys' education system, because I'm super curious, because as a Canadian, we don't really know how it works down there. And it's something that I'm sure my Canadian listeners are going to want to know if they ever head down. So we're going to come back right away after these commercial breaks with Jason Becker. I'm Max Ceron, the CWB Association podcast.
The CWB Group is Canada's national welding certification organization. We're pleased to offer welder testing at our state-of-the-art facility in Nisku. We provide welders the opportunity to practice for and take a CSA W47.1 welder qualification test. Book your welder qualification test with Canada's welding experts. Give us a call today at 1-800-844-6790 or visit us online at cwbgroup.org to book your training or testing slot. The CWB Group. We are welding.
The CWB Association membership is new, improved, and focused on you. The CWB Association is offering a free membership with a full suite of benefits to anyone interested in joining an association that is passionate about welding. Build your career, stay informed, and support the Canadian welding industry. Become a member today. Register at cwbassociation.org.
All right, and we're back here on CWB Association podcast. I'm Max Ceron with you guys as always, and we got an awesome conversation going on with Jason Becker, who is a teacher, welder, internet personality down in Florida. So we were just before the break talking about education systems. In Canada, we're government controlled, right? So there's a standardized education system, 3 levels across the entire country. Doesn't matter where you go, you're going to learn the same stuff. It's basically the same books. And if a change happens in any one area, that change spreads across the whole country and everyone has to change with it. Now, you're in the States. I don't think there is a government-controlled apprenticeship program. I think apprentices mainly go through unions, if I'm not wrong. And you've worked at a couple different colleges now welding. So I guess when you're talking about level 1 and level 2 where you teach, you know, who decides what's in level 1 and level 2? And then is it different from college to college? In the first college you were at, it was a different thing you were teaching as opposed to where you are now?
It's primarily the same thing. So whereas you guys have it kind of national, we have ours from state to state. So the Department of Education for the state of Florida, they have a set of guidelines that says, here's what you're going to teach if you're going to be teaching welding in the state of Florida. And it's basically 1,050 hours. So what I did is we run short-term training programs. We try to keep everything under 20 weeks for the students that are coming in, because we want to get them upskilled from their current conditions and get them better employed. And it kind of helps bring the community up. So there's a lot of different funding and opportunities that are available. So what I did is I just took that standardized 1,050 hours and I said, okay, here's what I'm going to teach in our beginner class, which would be the level 1. And then once we move into the advanced class, that's the level 2 portion. So pretty much everybody in the state of Florida, depending on how you split it, they're teaching that same 1,050 hours.
Okay.
And then there's another like an advanced pipe course that I want to say that's 750 hours. And before that was all tied up into the same program. And the welding instructor said, hey, look, we can't be doing this because, you're only giving us 250 hours to teach pipe. And anybody that's ever welded pipe before, especially coming in new, 250 hours, I mean, that's nothing.
No.
So we finally got it separated out to you can start a 750-hour course to run pipe.
Okay, so when they come out of your college and they finish the level 2, they have a welding. What's the parchment they get? The paper. What is it called?
They get a certificate of completion for the welding program, and then they'll also get copies of any welding qualifications that they earned in the program. We use those for educational purposes only. So we'll actually do a guided bend test follow all the standards through AWS D1.1 or D1.5, whatever they're going to test to. They'll get all their coupons bent in there. If they pass, they get the paperwork. And I tell them, hey, look, this doesn't mean you're certified. This means you are proficient at that process in this position, and here's what you're qualified to do if the employer accepts it. Now, because there's a big misunderstanding, especially with the companies down here for some reason, that if you earn a certification, well, what everybody calls a certification, if you get a qualification at a school, a lot of these employers will accept that, and they'll let those individuals weld under that qualification. Mm-hmm. It's actually the employer's responsibility to test that individual coming through the door and not accept previous certs. So it just depends on which company you go to work for. But yeah, they'll get the certificate of completion and then any welding quals that they earn while they're in the program.
Do you guys have the opportunity? Do the students have the opportunity to have AWS come in and invigilate a test and come out with the actual ticket that they can then use at any business, or does it not? Well, they have to.
Yeah, it doesn't work like that. So once again, the employers can choose to accept that.
Okay, I see.
So like when I went through the Ironworkers, we have to certify through AWS in the D11 code book for structural steel, 1-inch, 3G and 4G. Now that once I get that license or that certificate with my picture on it and everything, that's good internationally. However, when I go from one job to the next, they're going to retest me anyway and certify me to that company's documents. It's all part of whatever's in their construction documents. For the blueprints, it'll say that you have to be qualified or certified to this specific code, this type of work, this type of position, process, whatever. It'll all be listed out in there. Okay. The employer will they'll retest you.
So if I work for company, B in Florida, and then company B opens up a mine in Africa, I can go work in company B in Africa with that same ticket and still be certified. But if I've never, because I actually have gone to Africa a few times to work as in welding, and they like in Africa, it's 83 countries accepts Canada's certifications for welders straight across the board without retesting, right? So, and so I've never known how it works with AWS because weirdly enough, I've never run into an American welder in any of the projects I've worked in overseas, and I always wondered if it was a certification thing.
It could be. I don't know how they would operate internationally, but I know that through my union when I was in, that it should be accepted internationally. So I had a good buddy that he went to work in Brussels. Yeah. But he had to test to go there before he even stepped foot off American soil over here.
Oh yeah, okay, I see. And then you guys also have ASME, right? So you got ASME or API for tanks and vessels and stuff like that.
Yeah, there's 3 different governing bodies. But the to get the actual AWS cert, you have to go to an accredited testing facility. So that's a facility that's met all the requirements through the American Welding Society. They're fully functional and licensed to operate and hand out and issue that certificate and do all the testing. So that's one thing we're actually working at my facility is becoming an accredited testing facility through AWS.
Awesome. You know what you should do as well, just an idea in your head, look into getting CWB certification down there. I know Texas is doing that right now. Almost the entire state of Texas is bringing in Canadian certification because then with AWS and CWB in your back pocket, you're pretty much good anywhere in the world. So, and they're very similar. Like the D11, I believe, is a V groove with an open root with a backing plate, and CWB is a GF, so 1 square, 1 V. So they're very similar.
We actually we did a couple of videos on weld.com with the CWB going through the 1GF, 2GF. Your tests are a little bit there's a little bit more involved, I'll say that.
They're tricky
as compared to ours. Yeah, and I mean you really have to got to be on your game.
Yeah.
You got to kind of plan everything out ahead of time before you get into it, and there's a couple pitfalls in there, but I passed all of them but the 2GF, I believe.
Well, the horizontal, there's not a lot of room. They only have 5/16 on the back. So that's the trick. It's everyone's like, oh, vertical overhead's got to be the hardest. Oh, no, man, those are easy.
No. I heard most people bust out in flat. So when we did the flat one, I opened that, or we bent that one, and I was like, come on, let me at least pass flat because that's where we started. And I was like, okay, I got flat down. If I can do flat, the other one should be easy.
Well, a guy like you is never going to fail the flat, and I'll tell you why. People fail flat because they don't set the machine properly, not welding, right? Mm-hmm. People always crank the wire speed way too hot on the flat, or with stick they want to put it in too hot, and you'll get inclusions, and you just can't do it. You just be patient.
Yeah.
Awesome. So you're teaching. Do you do the pipe course as well? Do you do that 750? Do you teach that part?
I don't do that part. I wouldn't feel
As confident?
as confident in, because I mean I could work my way around a piece of pipe. I've never done an actual pipe test, but I don't want to teach somebody that if I'm not proficient with it, if it's not my background, I'm not going to tell somebody, yeah, I'll take your tuition dollars so I can teach you that. There's plenty of other schools that'll do that for them.
Yeah, for sure.
And it kind of shows, because I get a lot of them in my program that come from other programs that they weren't getting what they needed. But yeah, I chose not to teach pipe. I'm actually looking for a pipe instructor in the near future, so that we can offer that.
You know, it's we got a young guy in the shop. He's a new instructor. He's been there, I think, 2 years now, Derek. All he's done is run pipe his whole career. And he came in, and it was immediately like, you're the pipe teacher. I had a pipe certification years ago. I'm talking like 15 years ago, and I let it lapse, and I have never renewed it. So that doesn't make me very good. I was good that day to get it that day, but 10 years later, I'm probably not like you. I could probably make my way get through it, just force it in. But for a guy like Derek, who's been welding pipe professionally for 10 years, he comes in, he makes it look easy. It's like no skin off his teeth at all. So what's going on now with the ArcJunkies? Because that's the thing probably everyone talks to you about is the podcast, and I didn't want to make that the focus because they tend to always be interviews tend to be the same. You've been on probably a few now; they always kind of got the same vibe. But it is something that is cool because that is now the way the welding community really, really reaches out with each other. Now, you're not the original voice of ArcJunkies, are you?
Right. That was so my buddy Jimmy McKnight, the blue collar voice of Detroit.
Mm-hmm.
He started up the ArcJunkies back in 2016,
Okay.
I believe. And I mean, I was an avid listener of his show, and I flew out to Texas to the South Coast Welding Academy. I met up with Jimmy. He was getting ready to take his CWI class. So we were just chatting it up about, I was there on behalf of weld.com. He was there on behalf of the ArcJunkies podcast. And we got to chatting, became pretty good friends. And right around April, he called me up and he's like, hey man, I want to give up the podcast. I'm kind of, going to take a different journey. And I said, okay. He says, but I'm trying to find somebody to take the podcast over. And I was like, well, hell, man, I don't know anybody off the top of my head. I could probably put the word out. I could make a couple phone calls. He's like, no, you. I want to know if you'll do it. And I was like, man, I don't know radio. I don't know podcasting. I don't know editing software. I said, let me think about it.
Yeah.
And so I was like, I didn't want to see it go. I always look forward to, every time a new episode drops. So it took me about 2 weeks, and I was like, well, if I have the information and knowledge and know-how and, want to get the good word about welding out, I should probably take over the podcast.
Yeah.
And it was kind of an easy transition at that point. So I called him back up and I was like, yeah, man, tell me, what do I need to do? And he sent me all the passwords to the accounts. We did a couple Zoom meetings, and he showed me how to go through and edit, and, he told me what equipment to buy. So I went out, picked everything up, and everything's kind of mobile. So I pack it up in a little Pelican box.
Mm-hmm.
And then, when I'm ready to do the show, I unpack, I set everything up in a little mobile workstation and do the podcast and stuff, and then break it all back down, put it in the box. So it's been pretty neat, though. I've got to talk to a lot of interesting people and kind of get out the good word, and people seem to really appreciate it. They like the podcast. I've been getting a lot of positive feedback and a lot of good reviews on iTunes. So people are enjoying it. I'm still kind of finding my footing.
How many shows have you done now?
About 20. I think I took over at episode 120. I'm on episode 144 will be next week. So about 24 episodes.
All right, man. So it's yours now. You don't got anybody out there being like, you're not the old guy.
There's one guy, but I told him.
There's always one, right?
Yeah, he said something in the comment section. Once I took over, he's like, "Jimmy's the creator." He says, "I don't even know who you are." And I said, "Well, yeah, I don't know who you are either. So we're even."
We're even, yeah.
Yeah.
And when you make a podcast, I'll make sure I come, make fun of yours.
Yeah, definitely. Make sure you drop me a link. I'll listen to an episode, and then I'll come give you a bunch of crap in the comment section.
Now, do you see yourself holding on to the podcast for a long time? Like you're having fun? You got like a vision going forward with it?
Yeah, I mean, like I'm setting up kind of a whole business plan around it. Like our
Oh,
mission is
awesome.
with the ArcJunkies podcast is to help educate and inspire the next generation of welders. So just reaching out, talking to the younger generation, saying, "Hey, man, look, here's some resources for you guys. Here's some stuff that I didn't have when I was growing up, coming through the ranks. Hopefully, you can avoid making some of the mistakes that I made on my journey, and then just interacting, talking with some of the other people that are out there in the trades. Hey, what was your story? How'd you get started? What are some of the pitfalls that you can help somebody else avoid, or what's some information that you would give to somebody just getting into the trade, or somebody that's getting ready to graduate school. So I try to kind of hit it from a bunch of different angles, because if it's just me out there broadcasting, you're only getting my opinion. I want to get other people's opinions and experiences to kind of help a bigger audience out.
And there's so many different paths, right? There's like a million
Oh, yeah.
ways to do this, right?
Yeah, I mean, you've got artwork, you've got the pipeline, oil fields, ironwork. There's just so many different things you can do with welding. You can get in the race car industry. I mean, look at Etsy. I mean, Etsy's blowing up with welding projects. You know, especially everybody's been cooped up indoors for the past couple of months.
Well,
So,
and even getting into sales or product
Yeah.
services or working for Lincoln or there's just so many different angles, right? Like, have you been out to FabTech?
I've been out to FabTech a couple times. I was really bummed that they canceled it this year, because this one would have been the first year in Vegas.
Yeah, I know. I had my tickets. Like I was going.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I spoke at FabTech 2 years ago now, and I just got the email for FabTech coming up here back in Chicago in September.
Yeah, I'm definitely going to that one.
Yeah, I'll be down there too. You know what we should do is we should get all the internet people, like you guys, me, maybe Kevin, maybe Barbie the welder, all the ones that are really making waves. We should have a weld off. We should have a podcast weld off.
That'll work.
And we'll see who
I'm
the
sure
best.
we could set that up.
Yeah, that'd be super fun. See who the best welder is I'll probably lose, but I just think it'd be super fun.
Oh, you and me can hang out at the bottom, because I know some other guys out there that'll just embarrass me.
Yeah, for sure. But it's fun, and that'd be something fun. Get the hooks out there.
Mm-hmm.
Now at the college, you guys got new programming coming up. You guys got anything that you got developing that you're excited about?
Yeah, we're actually working on a couple different things. We're expanding our current programs. So along with that is hopefully going to be a new facility. If we get everything approved and everything, we're growing. Right now, my classes, I have a class cap at 13. And so we're looking to expand. We have a lot more people getting interested in the program. So we definitely want to start expanding things, kind of, helping a bigger portion of the community so that nobody's on a waiting list.
Yeah. Do you find that there is a waiting list? There's lots of people trying to get into the program?
Oh, yeah. And my next class doesn't start until February. And I think there's already 16 students on the list, which is kind of unheard of. We usually don't start getting interest till about a month or two before. But now it looks like it's going to be completely booked and then have another waiting list for it.
And what's your intake? You have 12 welding booths you can go at a time, or?
We have 10 welding booths, and then I'll take 13 students, because the other 3 students I can alternate through. Nobody wants to sit in a booth all day, especially for 6 hours and weld on the same coupon in the same position,
the same 5 inches.
So I break it up. I'll pull 3 of them out and say, okay, today you guys are going to build a welding cart, and once you guys are done with this, one or 2 days a week you're going to work on this welding cart. The other ones are going to be in the booth working on your proficiencies. This other group over here, I got them building a barbecue grill. I have another group of students that we have a professional lumberjack in our area, and he kind of tours around the U.S. and actually goes over to Australia quite a bit.
Cool.
So he needs some of the professional stands built for the lumberjack competitions. So we had a horizontal chopping vise, the horizontal chopping block, and then a vertical chopping vise. So he needs like 10 of each. So I got another couple of groups working on those projects. So they get to learn, how to cut, figure out angles and miters. And that's the cool part right there, is showing them how to do miters, because it really starts to rack their brain when, oh man, it's not a 90-degree cut. What am I going to do?
Yeah, math is hey, for the young people listening, if you're coming up and you're even thinking about welding, don't skip math class.
No. I tell my students that you remember when you sat in class and you raised your hand, you asked the teacher, hey, when the heck am I ever going to use this stuff? Well, bust out your calculators and your protractors because we're fixing to find some angles.
Yeah.
And but once you give them their hands back to learn, it's like my buddy Brian Eubanks was telling me, you hit about third grade in the school system. I mean, it might be different in Canada, but they take your hands away and just give you a book. It's not until you get back into a vocational or trades program where you're actually allowed to learn with your hands once again. And I think that's where, everybody kind of excels, when they can work with their hands and touch it and feel it and do it. I think there's a deeper understanding that occurs at that level of teaching.
Yeah, we have this similar here. It's about a 5-year break from like 3 to 8 where they stop with all the hand learning, and then after grade 8 it comes back. But I totally hear you, man. Like you don't want those signals, those connections in your brain to fade away. You see some kids are 2-3 years old and you could see that they're gifted. Like, I mean, they're building awesome, cool things with Lego or just drawing really good. And then you just kind of tell them, like, forget about that. Just forget about that.
Yeah.
It's like, that's not a good move.
No.
All right, man. Well, we're up. That flew by. That's the show, man.
Awesome.
Is there anything you want to part out with? You want to give any information about what's going on or any shout outs?
Yeah, I mean, you guys can follow me on the ArcJunkies podcast. We have new episodes that drop every Monday. You can follow me on weld.com. New episodes released every Monday and Friday, 5:30 Eastern Standard Time. And I appreciate you taking the time and invite me on the show, man. I had a good time.
Yeah, this was fun. And it was nice talking to someone. I feel like I got a lot in common with you. You teach. We both kind of the same career. We got into this weird gig now that somehow happened.
All right, how'd you land in it?
Oh man, I've been doing radio. This is okay. That's a long story, but I'll try to do the short stuff. I was born in South America. Okay, came to Canada, grew up here. I still speak Spanish fluently. In the community I live in, there's no Spanish, nothing. So I approached community radio here, like the local community radio station, and said, hey, can I do a show in Spanish just once a week? So I started doing just a weekly talk show, all in Spanish, just bringing on local Spanish people to talk about their businesses and local community stuff. So I started doing that when I was like 25. I'm 45 now, so it's almost 20 years. So I've been doing this on the side. Just no one really knows about it. Like all the English-speaking people I know, they don't care, right?
Right.
So I just been kind of doing that, and then welding, and then my welding career took off, teaching. And then I ended up, where I am now. And then through CWB, they're like, man, we've been seeing that you do a lot of stuff just on your Instagram, stuff like that. Would you be willing to do some webcasts for like online lessons for school? And I was like, sure, man, that sounds fun. I'm sure anyone could use some online stuff for here and there. So I made some videos on metallurgy, on GMAW, stuff like that. And then they came back and they're like, actually, would you like take a gig doing podcasts for us for like the country? And like you got to do one a week and starting like in 2 weeks. And I was like, same thing. Hit down to the Best Buy, buy some gear, get a microphone, and
right.
But luckily, I had that radio experience. I've been doing interviews in Spanish for a long time, so I don't do too much prep. I kind of just fly off the top of my head at this point.
Okay.
So yeah,
that's awesome, man.
Yeah. So I still teach. I still work with CWB. Trying to cover my basis. I basically just try to give back to the kids. As an immigrant coming to this country and getting into the steel trades for my dad and for myself. We've never been without. We've never been unemployed. We've always done well. So I try to promote that as much as I can, being like, the welding trades in a lot of ways saved our lives. And it's a game changer getting into skilled trades. It really is for your whole family.
Yeah.
Awesome, man. Well, I'll let you go. Thanks, everyone, for listening in to another edition of the CWB Association podcast. Max and Jason here. Well, we'll have to keep in touch about the Fab Tech Weld Off, or at least it'll be how many beers we can drink in one night. One of the two. We'll figure it out.
We can definitely do that.
and you guys share it up on Spotify, Stitcher, Apple, and also on Google Play. We're on there now. Finally showed up. So share us up, listen up, and thanks a lot, Jason.
All right, thank you.
Take care.
We hope you enjoyed the show.
You've been listening to the CWB Association Welding Podcast with Max Ceron. If you enjoyed what you heard today, rate our podcast and visit us at cwbassociation.org to learn more. Feel free to contact us if you have any questions or suggestions on what you'd like to learn about in the future. Produced by the CWB Group and presented by Max Ceron. This podcast serves to educate and connect the welding community. Please subscribe, and thank you for listening.